Have you ever been sitting on the couch when your dog suddenly walks into the room, carrying something completely ridiculous? A sock, a sleeper, a toy they haven't touched in months, maybe even something you didn't know was missing. Your dog drops it right at your feet, looks directly into your eyes, and waits. And you're probably thinking, why on earth did you bring me this? But here's the fascinating part. Your dog may have a very good reason. That random object might not be random at all. Dogs communicate with us in ways that don't always involve barking, whining, or wagging their tails. Sometimes they communicate by picking something up and bringing it directly to you. And what they're trying to say can be surprisingly emotional. Imagine this. You walk through the front door after a long day. Your dog runs towards you, tail wagging, eyes shining with excitement. Then suddenly for a moment, you hear little footsteps coming from the hallway. And there they are. Your dog proudly returns with a toy in their mouth. They drop it at your feet. What looks like a silly little moment could actually be your dog's way of saying something incredibly important. You're home. I'm happy. I want to share this moment with you. But that's only the beginning. Sometimes dogs bring things because they want attention. Sometimes they're inviting you to play. Sometimes they're carrying objects because they associate those objects with comfort, excitement, or your scent. And times, they're simply showing you something they consider valuable. Think about how amazing that is. Your dog lives in a world filled with smells, sounds, movement, and instincts that we can barely understand. Yet, out of everything around them, they choose to bring something to you. Why? What does your dog think you're going to do with that mysterious sock? Why does your dog sometimes bring the same toy over and over again? And why do some dogs proudly present objects to their owners like they're delivering an important package? The answers reveal something beautiful about the bond between humans and dogs. So before you laugh the next time your dog drops a completely useless object at your feet, stop for a second. Look into those eyes, because your dog may be trying to tell you far more than you realize. Chapter 2. Your dog may be asking for something. In Chapter 1, we discovered that when your dog brings you a random object, it may not be random at all. But now comes the bigger question. What exactly is your dog trying to ask for? Sometimes, the answer is surprisingly simple. Your dog wants your attention. Think about how often you get busy during the day. You're answering messages, watching TV, working, eating, cleaning, or simply lost in your own thoughts. Meanwhile, your dog may be sitting nearby, watching everything you do. They're waiting. Then suddenly they grab towards you. They drop it beside your feet. You look down. They look up, and then they wait. That little moment can be your dog's way of saying, "Hey, remember me?" Dogs are incredibly social animals. They often learn that certain behaviors get a reaction from their favorite humans. If bringing you a toy makes you smile, talk to them, pet them, or start playing, your dog quickly connects the dots. Bring object, get attention, and once they discover that it works, they may do it again and again. But here's where things get even more interesting. Your dog doesn't necessarily care whether the object is actually useful to you. A tennis ball makes sense. A squeaky toy makes sense. But a dirty sock, an old slipper, a random piece of clothing, from your dog's perspective, those objects can be incredibly interesting because They carry familiar smells, especially yours. Your scent is one of the most recognizable and comforting things in your dog's world. So, when your dog carries something that smells like you, they may be choosing an object that feels familiar and rewarding. Now, imagine the emotional connection behind that behavior. Your dog can't text you. They can't say, "I missed you." They can't explain, "I want you to play with me." Instead, they communicate through behavior. They bring something. They stand close. They look at you, and they wait for your response. That's why these little moments can reveal so much about the relationship between a dog and its owner. But there's another reason dogs bring things that is even more connected to their natural instincts. Long before dogs became our companions, their ancestors had strong instincts surrounding carrying, collecting, sharing, and protecting valuable resources. Those instincts didn't simply disappear. They evolved, and some of those ancient behaviors may still appear in the way your dog interacts with you today. So the next time your dog proudly delivers a mysterious object, don't immediately take it away. Watch what happens next, because their body language may reveal exactly what they're trying to tell you. Chapter 3. Your dog may be sharing its treasure. In the last chapter, we discovered that your dog may bring you things because they want attention, playtime, or simply a reaction from you. But there's another fascinating possibility. Sometimes, your dog may be bringing you something because, in their mind, they're sharing. And this is where their ancient instincts become incredibly interesting. Dogs are descendants of animals that depended heavily on social relationships. Cooperation, communication, and sharing could all play important roles within a social group. Your dog may not be thinking about these things the way a human does, but certain instincts can still influence their behavior. So when your dog proudly walks toward you carrying a toy, a sock, or another object, they may treat that item as something valuable, and then they bring it to their favorite person. You. Think about that for a moment. Your dog has access to countless things throughout the house, yet they choose something, pick it up, carry it across the room, and bring it directly to you. That doesn't necessarily mean they're literally saying, "This is a gift for you." But their behavior can be a social interaction, a way of involving you in something they find interesting, exciting, or rewarding. And sometimes, the object itself isn't even the most important part. Your reaction is. If you smile, laugh, speak excitedly, or reach for the toy, your dog learns that bringing objects creates interaction. That interaction can become a rewarding little ritual between the two of you. There's also another fascinating possibility. Your dog may be inviting you to participate. When they drop a ball at your feet and stare at you, they're not just leaving an object behind. They're waiting. Maybe they want you to throw it. Maybe they want you to chase them. Maybe they simply want you to acknowledge what they've brought. It's almost like they're starting a conversation without saying a single word. And here's something many dog owners recognize immediately. Sometimes, the moment you finally pick up the object, your dog becomes incredibly excited. Their tail starts moving faster. Their body becomes playful. Their eyes lock onto yours. Suddenly, that random thing has turned into a shared experience. That's the beautiful part. Dogs don't always need complicated communication to connect with us. Sometimes, all it takes is a toy, a sock, and a few seconds of attention. But there's still a bigger mystery. Why do some dogs bring objects specifically when their owners come home? Why do they sometimes carry toys around when they're excited? And why do certain dogs seem almost desperate to show you what they've found? The answer takes us even deeper into the emotional world of dogs. Chapter 4. Why your dog brings you things when you come home. In the last chapter, we talked about how your dog may bring you objects as a form of social interaction, or even a kind of sharing. But there's one moment when this behavior becomes especially noticeable. When you come home, you open the front door. Before you even have time to put your keys down, you hear excited paws racing across the floor. Your dog appears. Their tail is moving. Their body is wiggling. Their eyes are locked on you. And then, suddenly, they disappear. For a second, you wonder where they went. Then you see them coming back. And this chimid something. A favorite toy. A sleeper. A blanket. Maybe even the most random object they could possibly find. Why? Because your arrival can trigger an enormous burst of excitement. Dogs often develop predictable routines around important events. And if your dog has learned that your arrival means attention, affection, play, or excitement, they may create their own special greeting ritual. For some dogs that ring, it's almost like their version of a welcome home ceremony. But there's another interesting detail. Your dog may already know exactly which object gets the biggest reaction from you. Maybe you always laugh when they bring you a particular toy. Maybe you immediately start playing when they bring a ball. Maybe you talk to them when they show up carrying your slipper. Over time, your dog learns from these reactions. They remember what works. So the next time you walk through the door, they may go straight for that object. Not because they plan the entire event like a human would, but because their experiences have taught them that this behavior creates a rewarding interaction with you. And that's important. Your dog isn't just reacting to the object. They're reacting to you, your voice, your attention, your presence, your energy. For a dog, those things can be incredibly meaningful. That's why some dogs seem almost offended when you walk through the door and don't immediately acknowledge them. They may bring a toy. They may follow you around. They may sit nearby and stare at you. They're trying to reconnect after being separated from you. And sometimes, that tiny object becomes the bridge between being apart and being together again. But here's where things get even more fascinating. Not every object your dog brings is chosen because it's fun. Some objects are chosen because they smell like you. And that brings us to one of the most surprising reasons dogs carry your belongings around. Your scent may be far more important to your dog than you ever realized. Chapter 5. Why does your dog love your socks and clothes? In the last chapter, we discovered that your dog's strange little gifts can sometimes be connected to the excitement of seeing you again. But now, let's talk about something every dog owner has probably experienced. You leave a perfectly good sock somewhere for just a few minutes. You come back, and it's gone. You search the house, under the couch, nothing. Behind the chair, nothing. Then you hear it. Little footsteps. Your dog walks into the room with your sock proudly hanging from their mouth. You stare at them. They stare back. And somehow, they look completely innocent. So why are dogs so fascinated by our personal belongings? One major reason is something we often take for granted. Your scent. A dog's sense of smell is extraordinarily powerful. The world around your dog is filled with information carried through scent. And your individual smell is one of the most familiar scents in their environment. Your clothes, socks, shoes, blankets, and other frequently used belongings can carry that familiar scent to your dog that can make those objects extremely interesting. And sometimes, familiar scents can be comforting. Imagine being surrounded by thousands of unfamiliar smells every day, then suddenly finding an object that smells strongly like the person you trust most. Your dog may choose to carry it around simply because it's familiar. That doesn't mean every dog is consciously thinking, "This smells like my owner, so I will keep it." Their behavior is much more instinctive than that. But the connection can still be meaningful. This is also why some dogs may choose your belongings over expensive toys. You could buy the most colorful, squeaky, exciting toy available. Your dog might inspect it for 5 seconds, then walk straight toward your old shoe. Why? Because the shoe isn't just an object. It carries your scent, and your scent is part of your dog's familiar world. There's another reason, too. Your belongings can become rewarding because of your reaction. If your dog grabs a sock and you immediately chase them around the house, they may discover something incredibly exciting. "When I pick this up, my human plays with me." Now the sock has become part of a game. Your dog hunts. You follow. Dodge. You reach for the sock. And suddenly, your ordinary laundry has become the greatest entertainment in the house. Of course, that doesn't mean every personal item should become a dog toy. Some objects can be unsafe if chewed or swallowed. So it's important to redirect your dog toward appropriate toys when necessary. But the next time your dog steals your sock, remember, they may not be trying to annoy you. They may simply be attracted to something that smells familiar, feels interesting, and gets your attention. And there's an even deeper reason some dogs carry objects around repeatedly. Sometimes, they're not looking for a toy. Chapter 6. Sometimes, your dog is looking for comfort. In the last chapter, we discovered why your dog may be strangely attracted to your socks, shoes, and clothes. Your scent can make familiar objects especially interesting. But now, we're going one step deeper. Because sometimes, when a dog carries something around, they may not be looking for fun at all. They may be looking for comfort. Think about what happens when you're away from home. Your dog may hear the door close. The house becomes quiet. The usual sounds disappear. And your dog is left surrounded by familiar rooms, familiar furniture, and familiar smells, but you're not there. For some dogs, an object or sin become a source of familiarity. A shirt you've worn, a blanket you've used, a pair of shoes sitting near the door. These objects can smell like the person your dog knows best. And when a dog chooses to lie beside one of those objects, carry it around, or simply stay near it, the behavior may be connected to familiarity and comfort. It's one reason your dog may sometimes seem strangely attached to an old piece of clothing. You might see nothing special. Your dog may see something completely different. To them, that object is part of a familiar environment. And familiar things can feel reassuring. But there's another important detail. Not every dog responds to being alone in the same way. Some dogs are perfectly comfortable relaxing by themselves. Others may become restless, vocal, destructive, or unusually clingy when separated from their people. If your dog regularly becomes very distressed when you're gone, that's different from simply carrying around a comforting object. Persistent separation-related problems can be serious, and talking with a veterinarian or qualified behavior professional can help. For many dogs, though, carrying an object is simply part of their everyday behavior. And sometimes, it becomes a routine. Your dog wakes up, they find their favorite toy, they carry it around, they bring it to you. Later, they settle down beside it. Then, when you leave the room, they may carry it with them again. It's almost like having a favorite little possession. And that brings us to something fascinating about dogs. They can form strong preferences for particular objects. Maybe it's a faded stuffed animal. Maybe it's an old tennis ball. Maybe it's a toy that looks completely destroyed but somehow remains their favorite. Why that particular object? What makes one toy more valuable than another? The answer may involve smell, texture, memories, previous positive experiences, and even the way you've interacted with that object. So, when your dog refuses to give up an old toy, don't assume they simply haven't found a better one. There may be a whole history behind that attachment. Chapter 7, your dog may be saying, "Let's play." In the last chapter, we discovered that dogs can become strongly attached to certain objects, especially when those objects are connected with comfort, familiarity, or positive experiences. But sometimes, your dog isn't looking for comfort at all. Sometimes, they're looking at you with a toy in their mouth and sending you one very clear message. Come on, let's play. You know the moment. Your dog walks towards you, carrying a ball. They drop it. You pick it up. Their entire body suddenly changes. Their ears perk up. Their eyes become focused. Their tail starts moving. Then they take a few quick steps backward. You already know what's coming. You throw the ball. They race after it, and the game begins. This behavior can be much more than simply dropping a toy near you. Dogs often use body language to invite interaction. Playful dog may lower the front half of their body while keeping their rear raised. Bonsi Ragnar, or repeatedly bring a toy back to you. They're communicating through movement. And once they discover that you understand the message, the behavior can become a routine. Your dog brings the toy. You throw it. They retrieve it. They bring it back. Again. And again. And again. You might eventually wonder, how many times can one dog play the same game? Apparently, for some dogs, the answer is a lot more than you expected. That's because play can be highly rewarding. It provides movement, mental stimulation, attention, and social interaction. And for your dog, the best part may not even be the toy. Maybe your voice, your excitement, your movement, your attention, the shared experience. That's why some dogs don't seem satisfied when you simply throw the toy once. They bring it back immediately. They stare at you, then they wait. It's their way of restarting the conversation. And here's something especially interesting. Some dogs don't bring you toys because they want you to throw them. They may want you to chase them. They grab an object, run away, look back at you, and wait. You move toward them. They run faster. You stop. They stop too. Suddenly, your living room has become a game of chase. But there's a reason you shouldn't turn every stolen object into a chase game. If your dog learns that stealing your belongings always starts an exciting pursuit, they may repeat the behavior just to get that reaction. Instead, calmly trade the item for an appropriate toy. That teaches your dog something valuable without turning the moment into a battle. And yet, play isn't the only reason your dog may bring you something. Sometimes, the object they're carrying can reveal what they're feeling. Excited, bored, curious, anxious, or simply eager to interact. Chapter 8. Watch what your dog does after bringing it. In the last chapter, we discovered that sometimes your dog brings you an object because they want one simple thing: playtime. But here's where things get even more interesting. The object your dog brings you is only part of the message. What happens after they bring it may tell you even more. Imagine your dog walks toward you with a toy in their mouth. They drop it at your feet. Then they look at you. What happens next? Do they wag their tail and bounce around? Do they immediately run away? Do they sit quietly beside you? Do they keep staring at the object? Or do they simply lie down? Each reaction can give you clues about what your dog may be trying to communicate. For example, if your dog drops a toy, looks at you, and then repeatedly moves into a playful posture, they may be inviting you to interact. Their body looks loose. Their movements are energetic. Their attention stays focused on you. They're engaged. But imagine something different. Your dog brings you an object and then calmly settles beside you. They aren't trying to start a game. They aren't demanding attention. They simply want to stay close. That could be a completely different interaction. This is why it's important to look at the entire picture instead of focusing on one behavior. Dogs communicate through combinations of signals. Their posture, their facial expression, their tail position, their ears, their movement, their vocalizations, and, of course, the situation around them. For instance, a dog carrying a toy while bouncing excitedly after you arrive home is showing a very different pattern from a dog carrying an object while appearing tense, restless, or unusually withdrawn. The object itself doesn't tell the whole story. Context matters. This is one of the biggest mistakes humans make when interpreting dog behavior. We see one action and immediately assign it one meaning. But dogs aren't that simple. The same behavior can happen for different reasons. A dog may carry a toy because they want to play. Another dog may carry the same toy because it is comforting. Another may simply enjoy carrying things around. And another may have learned that carrying the toy gets a big reaction from their owner. So, instead of asking only, "What does this object mean?" ask a better question: "What is my dog doing, and what happens immediately afterward?" That little shift can completely change how you understand your dog. And there's another fascinating clue you can watch for. Sometimes, dogs don't just bring an object to their owners. They bring it to a specific person, over and over again. Why that person? Why not someone else in the house? The answer may reveal something surprisingly important about how dogs form social bonds, and that's exactly what we're going to uncover next. Chapter 9. Why does your dog bring things to you? In the last chapter, we learned that the object itself isn't always the most important clue. Your dog's body language, the situation, and what happens afterward can tell us much more. But now, let's ask a fascinating question. Why does your dog bring things to you specifically? Maybe there are several people in your home, yet somehow your dog walks past everyone else and comes straight to you. They grab their favorite toy, They walk across the room. They drop it beside your feet. Why? One possibility is simple. Your dog has learned that you respond. Maybe you're the person who usually plays fetch. Maybe you're the one who talks to your dog the most. Maybe you get excited when they bring you something. Or perhaps you're simply the person your dog has developed a particularly strong routine with. Dogs learn through repeated experiences. If bringing you a toy consistently leads to attention, play, praise, or another positive interaction, your dog may naturally keep choosing you. It's not necessarily about choosing a favorite human in some dramatic way. It's about associations. Your dog learns. When I bring this person my toy, something good happens, and that lesson can become incredibly strong. Think about a dog who loves playing fetch. Every evening, the owner sits down after work. The dog grabs a ball. The dog walks over. The owner throws it. The dog brings it back. After hundreds of repetitions, the dog doesn't need to figure out what to do anymore. The routine is already established. Ball, owner, throw, retrieve, repeat. But sometimes, your dog may choose you for another reason. You're the person who makes them feel secure. Dogs can form strong social bonds with the people who consistently care for them, interact with them, and provide positive experiences. So when they approach you carrying something, the object may simply be a way to start an interaction with someone they trust. And here's something adorable. Your dog may sometimes bring you something even when they don't actually want you to do anything with it. They may simply want you to notice. They bring the toy. You look at them. They wag their tail. Then they walk away. No gamey, no throwing, no chasing. Just a quick little interaction. It's almost as if your dog is saying, "Look what I have." And that tiny moment can become part of your shared communication. But there's still one major mystery. What happens when your dog brings you something they know they're not supposed to have? A shoe, a tissue, a piece of paper, something from the trash. Do they actually know they've done something wrong? Or are we misunderstanding their behavior completely? The answer may surprise you, because what looks like guilt to us isn't always what it appears to be. Chapter 10, Does Your Dog Know They Stole Something? In the last chapter, we explored why your dog may choose to bring certain objects specifically to you. But now, let's talk about one of the most confusing situations dog owners experience. Your dog walks into the room carrying something they absolutely shouldn't have. Maybe it's your shoe. Maybe it's a tissue. Maybe it's something they pulled from the laundry. You look at them. They freeze. Their ears move back. Their body lowers. And suddenly, they give you that famous expression that seems to say, "I know, I'm sorry." But do they actually understand that they did something wrong? This is where things get really interesting. Dogs are excellent at reading human behavior. They can notice changes in our voice, posture, facial expression, and movements. So, if you walk into the room, see your favorite shoe in your dog's mouth, and immediately react with frustration, your dog may notice that something about your behavior has changed. But that doesn't necessarily mean they're thinking about the past action the way a human would. In other words, the expression that looks like guilt may actually be a response to your current behavior. Your dog may be communicating discomfort, uncertainty, or an attempt to avoid conflict. And this distinction matters. Imagine your dog grabbed a shoe 10 minutes ago. You weren't there. Later, you discover the shoe and call your dog over. Your dog approaches slowly. You point toward the shoe. Their body becomes tense. Look away. It may feel like they're admitting, "Yes, I did it." But the behavior doesn't necessarily prove that your dog understands the earlier event in the same way you do. That's why punishment after the fact usually isn't helpful. Your dog may not connect your reaction with the behavior that happened earlier. Instead, they may simply learn that you become frightening or unpredictable around certain situations. A better approach is to manage the environment and teach your dog what you want them to do. If your dog loves carrying shoes, keep shoes out of reach and provide appropriate toys that are safe to carry. If they grab something they shouldn't, calmly redirect them toward an appropriate item. When they choose the correct object, reward that choice. Over time, your dog can learn a much clearer rule. This is mine to play with. That isn't. And that brings us back to the mystery of random objects. Sometimes your dog isn't trying to be naughty. Sometimes they're exploring. Sometimes they're bored. Sometimes they want attention. Sometimes they want to play. And sometimes they simply found something interesting. But there's another behavior that can make this whole subject even more fascinating. Some dogs don't just bring objects to their owners. They actually collect them. Shoes, toys, socks, blankets, anything they find interesting. Why do they do that? Chapter 11, Why does your dog collect your things? In the last chapter, we discovered that when your dog carries something they shouldn't have, what looks like guilt may actually be a reaction to your tone, body languishments. But now, we're entering an even stranger part of the story. Some dogs don't just bring you random things. They collect them. One sock disappears. Then another. A slipper mysteriously moves across the house. A toy ends up under the dining table. And somehow, several of your dog's favorite objects are gathered in one particular corner. You walk over and discover a strange little collection. You might even think, did my dog do this on purpose? Sometimes the answer can be yes. Dogs can develop strong preferences for certain objects and may repeatedly carry them to places they find comfortable or interesting. Why? One reason may be simple enjoyment. Carrying objects can be naturally rewarding for some dogs. They may enjoy the texture, smell, movement, or sensation of having something in their mouth. For other dogs, collecting can become a learned routine. Maybe your dog discovers that picking up a sock gets your attention. Maybe carrying a toy around makes them feel engaged. Maybe hiding an object gives them something interesting to do. Over time, the behavior can become a habit. And sometimes, the collection itself may be connected to comfort. Your dog might gather familiar toys or objects in a favorite resting area. That doesn't necessarily mean they're emotionally overwhelmed. It may simply be their personal way of organizing their environment. Think about a dog who has 5 toys scattered around the house. Instead of playing with all of them separately, they may carry several into one favorite spot. Then they lie down beside them. It can look surprisingly intentional. And here's something else worth remembering. Dogs experience the world differently from us. We might look at a pile of old toys and see clutter. Your dog may see a collection of familiar, interesting objects. Each one has a different smell, a different texture, a different history. and some may be connected with positive experiences. The ball you throw every evening, the stuffed toy they carried as a puppy, the squeaky toy you used during playtime. These objects can become part of your dog's everyday world. But collecting can sometimes become a problem if your dog becomes extremely possessive or reacts aggressively when someone approaches their objects. That's called resource guarding, and it should be taken seriously instead of forcibly taking things away. Owners should use calm management and seek guidance from a qualified professional when needed. For most dogs, though, a small toy collection is simply another fascinating expression of their individual personality. And there's one more question. What happens when your dog brings you an object and then refuses to let you touch it? Chapter 12. Why does your dog bring it, then refuse to give it back? In the last chapter, we discovered that some dogs love collecting objects and creating their own little treasure piles. But now, there's a behavior that can leave you completely confused. Your dog brings you a toy. They proudly place it right in front of you. You reach for it, and suddenly, they grab it and run away. You follow. They look back. You stoppy. They stoppy. You reach again. They run again. At this point, you might be thinking, wait, weren't you the one who brought this to me? Yes. And that's exactly what makes the behavior so fascinating. Sometimes, your dog isn't actually asking you to take the object. They're inviting you to interact with them. For some dogs that you get, they may have learned that picking up an object gets you moving, talking, laughing, or following them. So the object becomes the starting point for an exciting interaction. Your dog grabs the toy. You reach for it. They move your way. You follow. Their tail is wagging. Their body is loose. They keep looking back at you. That can be a playful routine. But there's an important difference you need to understand. Not every dog that refuses to give something back is playing. Sometimes, a dog may genuinely want to keep the object. Watch their body carefully. If they're relaxed, playful, and repeatedly inviting interaction, the situation may simply be a game. But if your dog becomes stiff, freezes, growls, shows their teeth, or guards the object when someone approaches, that's a different situation. Those can be warning signs of resource guarding, and that's when you should avoid turning the moment into a tug-of-war. Instead, create distance, stay calm, and use appropriate training strategies. If guarding is frequent or intense, getting help from a qualified dog behavior professional is a smart step. But here's the fun part. Sometimes, your dog may have discovered a hilarious little trick. They know you want the object, and that makes it more exciting. Think about a puppy grabbing a sock and running across the room. Everyone suddenly reacts. Someone stands up. Someone calls their name. Someone follows them. The puppy may learn, "This is amazing. Everyone is paying attention to me." Now, the sock isn't just a sock. It's an attention button. And every time your dog presses it, something happens. That's why calmly redirecting your dog toward an appropriate toy can be much more effective than chasing them around the house. You're teaching them that good things happen when they choose the right object. But there's still another mystery. Why do some dogs bring their toys to you and then simply stare at you? Barking, running, no obvious request. Just those eyes? What exactly are they waiting for? The answer may be connected to one of the most powerful ways dogs communicate with humans: eye contact. Chapter 13. Why does your dog stare at you after bringing something? In the last chapter, we discovered why your dog might bring you a toy, refuse to give it back, and then turn the whole situation into a game. But now, imagine something different. Your dog brings you a toy. They drop it at your feet. Then, they just stare at you, barking, running, jumping. Just a quiet, focused look. You look at them. They keep looking. And suddenly, you realize something. Your dog is waiting for your response. Dogs use eye contact as part of their communication with humans. And the meaning can depend heavily on the situation and the rest of their body language. A relaxed dog with a loose body and soft expression may simply be trying to engage with you. Maybe they want attention. Maybe they want you to throw the toy. Maybe they're waiting for you to recognize what they've brought. It's almost like a silent question. So, what are we doing now? And if you've lived with a dog for a long time, you may recognize this instantly. Your dog doesn't need to bark. You already know what that look means. At least, you think you do. That's because humans and dogs can develop shared routines over time. You learn their signals. They learn yours. Maybe you reach for the ball every time they bring it. Maybe you say the same phrase before playing. Maybe you smile and pet them when they approach with a toy. These repeated interactions create patterns, and your dog becomes very good at recognizing them. But here's something important. Not every stare means the same thing. A relaxed, playful stare is very different from a tense, fixed stare. If your dog's body is loose, their movements are relaxed, and they're behaving normally, the interaction may simply be social or playful. But if their body becomes stiff, their expression is tense, or they're guarding an object, don't assume they're inviting you to play. Again, context matters. This is why understanding dogs isn't about memorizing one behavior and assigning it one meaning. It's about looking at the entire picture. And sometimes, that picture is incredibly sweet. Your dog brings you their favorite toy. They place it beside you. Then they sit down. They look into your eyes. And they simply wait. Maybe they want a game. Maybe they want attention. Maybe they just enjoy being near you. Whatever the exact reason, one thing is clear. Your dog has learned that you matter in their world. But there's another surprising reason dogs may bring objects to humans. Sometimes, they may be responding to something happening inside their own environment. Boredom, excitement, a change in routine, or simply a need for more mental stimulation. And that raises a fascinating question. Could your dog's random object habit actually be telling you they're bored? That's what we'll explore next. Chapter 14. Could your dog be bringing things because they're bored? In the last chapter, we discovered that when your dog brings you something and then stares at you, they may be waiting for a response. But what if there's another reason? What if your dog isn't just asking for attention? What if they're telling you, I need something to do? Boredom can affect dogs, especially when their daily routine doesn't provide enough appropriate physical activity, mental stimulation, social interaction, or opportunities to explore. And sometimes, boredom doesn't look like a dog lying around looking miserable. It can look surprisingly creative. Your dog starts carrying socks. They move shoes around. They repeatedly bring toys to you. They investigate the trash. They wander from room to room. They find something interesting and turn it into a game. Suddenly, that random object behavior starts making more sense. Imagine your dog has spent most of the day with very little to do. Then they notice a sock on the floor. They pick it up. You react. Maybe you laugh. Maybe you chase them. Maybe you talk to them. From your dog's perspective, something just happened. The boring day suddenly became exciting. That one sock created interaction. And if the experience was rewarding, your dog may repeat it. This is why some unwanted behaviors can accidentally become habits. The dog finds an object. The human reacts. The dog gets attention. The behavior gets repeated. It's not because your dog is trying to drive you crazy. They're learning from the consequences of their actions. So what can you do? Give your dog appropriate ways to stay engaged. Short training sessions can provide mental stimulation. Interactive toys can encourage problem solving. Sniffing and exploring during walks can give dogs opportunities to investigate their environment. And simple play sessions can create valuable social interaction. You don't need to entertain your dog every second of the day. In fact, learning to relax is important too. The goal is balance. But here's something many owners overlook. Sometimes your dog may bring you a toy repeatedly because they have learned that you are the most interesting thing in the room. The toy isn't necessarily the main attraction. You are. Your attention is the reward. Your voice is exciting. Your movement changes the environment. Your reaction makes the moment meaningful. And that's why the behavior can become so persistent. But there's another side to this story. What if your dog suddenly starts bringing objects when they normally never did? What if the behavior appears out of nowhere? That could be worth paying attention to. A sudden change in behavior can sometimes be associated with changes in routine, environment, stress, or other factors. If the change is persistent, extreme, or accompanied by other concerning signs, checking with a veterinarian is a sensible step. Chapter 15. What if your dog brings you something when they're stressed? In the last chapter, we discovered that random object behavior can sometimes be connected to boredom, attention, or a need for more mental stimulation. But now, let's look at a completely different situation. What happens when your dog brings you something during a stressful or unfamiliar moment? Maybe there are loud noises outside. Maybe guests have arrived. Maybe you've moved furniture around the house. Maybe there's a storm. Or perhaps your dog's normal routine has suddenly changed. And then you notice something unusual. Your dog grabs a familiar toy and walks straight toward you. Why? Sometimes dogs may seek out familiar people, places, or objects when they're uncertain or stressed. A familiar object can become part of a comforting routine, and you may be the most familiar part of all. Your dog may approach you because being near you has repeatedly been associated with safety, attention, and positive experiences. Think about a dog hearing an unfamiliar sound. Their ears perk up. They pause. They look around. Then they find their favorite toy and carry it toward their owner. The toy may not magically solve the problem, but carrying something familiar and approaching a trusted person may become part of how that dog responds to the situation. And this is where paying attention really matters. Don't look only at the object. Look at your dog's entire body. Are they relaxed? Are they moving normally? Are they interested in playing? Or are they pacing, hiding, trembling, panting excessively, trying to escape, or acting unusually tense? Those differences can tell you much more than the toy itself. If your dog is genuinely frightened or distressed, forcing them into interaction isn't the answer. Instead, create a calm environment. Give them space when they need it, and let them choose whether to approach. If stress or fear becomes frequent or severe, talking with a veterinarian or qualified behavior professional can help identify what's happening and what. Support is appropriate. But here's the beautiful part. For many dogs, simply having their trusted person nearby can make a difficult moment easier to handle. That's because relationships matter. Your dog may not understand every situation the way you do. They don't know why the thunder is happening. They don't know why strangers suddenly entered the house. They don't understand why the furniture moved. But they know something familiar. Oh, and sometimes that familiarity is enough to encourage them to come closer. So the next time your dog brings you a toy during a strange or stressful moment, don't automatically assume they want to play. Pause. Observe. Listen to their body language. They may be telling you something very different. And there's one more fascinating possibility. Chapter 16, your dog may have learned exactly what works. In the last chapter, we discovered that dogs may sometimes bring familiar objects when they're dealing with unfamiliar situations or simply looking for comfort. But now, let's uncover another fascinating piece of the puzzle. Your dog may have figured out something about you. They may know exactly which behaviors get your attention. Think about it. Your dog picks up a toy. You look at them. They bring it closer. You talk to them. They wag their tail. You reach for the toy. They get excited. That entire interaction teaches your dog something. When I do this, my human responds. Dogs are constantly learning from what happens around them. They don't need a formal lesson every time. Everyday experiences can teach them what gets attention, what starts a game, what leads to food, and what makes their humans react. And sometimes, your reaction can accidentally make a behavior stronger. Imagine your dog steals a sock. You immediately chase them. Your dog runs across the room. You follow. They dodge around the couch. You keep chasing. Your dog may not understand your frustration the way you do. They may simply think, "This is fun." Now, imagine that happening several times. The behavior can become a game. The sock becomes the starting signal. You chase. Your dog hunts. Everyone is excited. So, what began as a simple object-stealing behavior can turn into a learned routine. This is why calm redirection can be so useful. Instead of turning every stolen item into an exciting chase, you can offer an appropriate toy and reward your dog for choosing it. Over time, your dog can learn which choices lead to positive interactions. And this learning doesn't only happen with unwanted behaviors. It can happen with good ones too. If your dog brings you a ball and you play together, your dog learns that bringing the ball creates a rewarding experience. If your dog brings an appropriate toy and you praise them, that behavior may become more likely to happen again. In a way, your dog is constantly asking, "What happens when I do this?" And your response provides the answer. That's why your relationship with your dog is built through thousands of tiny moments. A glance, a wordji, a gamey, a walk, a reward, a reaction. Your dog watches, your dog learns, and your dog remembers patterns. But there's something even more surprising. Sometimes your dog may bring you an object because they have learned that you will help them with it. Maybe a toy is stuck under furniture. Maybe something needs to be opened. Maybe they simply can't figure out what to do next. So they carry the object to you. And suddenly, their random delivery looks less random. They're coming to the person they expect to solve the problem. But how can you tell whether your dog is asking for help, asking to play, or simply seeking attention? Chapter 17. What if your dog is actually asking you for help? In the last chapter, we discovered something fascinating. Your dog may have learned exactly which behaviors get a reaction from you. But what if your dog brings you something for a completely different reason? What if they're not asking you to play? What if they're not looking for attention? What if they're asking for help? Imagine your dog finds a toy underneath the couch. They reach for it. Their paw stretches forward. They try again. Still nothing. Then they walk away. A few seconds later, they return to you carrying something else. They look at you. Then they look toward the couch. Then back at you. You follow their gaze. And suddenly, you understand. Oh, you want me to get that for you? Dogs can learn surprisingly effective ways to get humans involved when they encounter something they can't easily handle themselves. Maybe a toy is stuck somewhere. Maybe a favorite object is behind a barrier. Maybe they want access to something that's difficult for them to reach. And if they've previously learned that humans can solve these problems, they may approach us when they need assistance. Of course, we shouldn't assume every object delivery means a dog is asking for help. Context is everything. If your dog brings a ball and immediately runs toward the backyard, that's probably a very different message from a dog bringing an object and repeatedly looking between you and a specific location. Watch the sequence. Object. Look at you. Look towards something else. Return attention to you. That pattern can provide useful clues. And here's where dogs become especially impressive. They learn routines. Suppose your dog once couldn't reach a toy under the couch. You noticed. You helped. The dog got the toy. That experience may teach them that approaching you can solve a similar problem in the future. So next time something gets stuck, they may come looking for you again. It's almost like they've discovered, my human can fix this, and that trust can be incredibly meaningful. But sometimes, the problem isn't an object. Sometimes, your dog may bring something because they want you to follow them. They pick up a toy, walk a few steps, turn around, look at you, walk again, look back, you follow. They lead you toward another room. Maybe they're taking you to their food bowl. Maybe they want to go outside. Maybe they want you to notice something. Or maybe they've simply learned that this little routine gets you moving. Again, the key is to watch the whole interaction. Your dog's behavior is a conversation, and every movement can be part of that conversation. But there's another fascinating question we haven't answered yet. Why do some dogs bring different objects for different situations? Why might one toy appear during playtime, while another object appears when the dog wants comfort? Chapter 18 Your dog may remember what that object means. In the last chapter, we discovered that your dog may sometimes bring an object because they've learned that you can help them. But now, let's explore something even deeper. Why does your dog sometimes choose one specific object over everything else? You could place 10 toys on the floor, 10 different shapes, 10 different colors, 10 different sounds, and somehow, your dog walks straight toward the same old toy they've carried around countless times. Why that one? The answer may have a lot to do with association. Dogs learn by connecting experiences with things in their environment. A particular toy may become associated with play. A blanket may become associated with rest. A leash may become associated with going outside. And a favorite object may become connected with the people, places, and experiences your dog enjoys. Think about a ball your dog has played with hundreds of times. That ball isn't just a round object anymore. It has a history. Your dog has chased it, carried it, dropped it, watched you throw it. Maybe you've used it during some of your happiest moments together. So when your dog sees that ball again, it may trigger familiar expectations. This is the thing we play with. That's association. And it can help explain why dogs sometimes appear to have surprisingly strong preferences. The same thing can happen with your belongings. Your dog may repeatedly choose one particular sock, blanket, or shirt because it has a familiar scent or because previous experiences made that object interesting. Again, your dog isn't necessarily thinking about these connections in the same detailed way a human would, but their brain can learn patterns, object, experience, feeling, result, repeat. This also explains why your dog's behavior can change depending on the situation. Maybe they bring a ball when they're excited, a soft toy when they're relaxing, a familiar item when they're uncertain, and another object when they want attention. The objects can become part of predictable routines, and routines are incredibly important to many dogs. They help make the world easier to understand. But there's something else worth considering. Sometimes, the object itself may not matter nearly as much as what you do with it. If every time your dog brings a certain toy, you sit down and spend 10 minutes playing together, that toy becomes connected with something your dog values enormously. Jimmy Watthew. That's why replacing an old favorite toy with a brand new one doesn't always work. You might look at the old toy and see something worn out. Your dog may see something familiar, something rewarding, something connected to experiences they've enjoyed again and again. And that brings us closer to the heart of this entire mystery. When your dog brings you a random object, you're not always looking at a meaningless behavior. Chapter 19. The real reason your dog keeps bringing you things. For the past 18 chapters, we've followed a simple mystery. Your dog picks up a random object. They carry it across the room. They bring it directly to you. And you wonder, why? Maybe they wanted attention. Maybe they wanted to play. Maybe the object smelled like you. Maybe they were bored. Maybe they were looking for comfort. Maybe they had learned that bringing something to you created a rewarding interaction. But now, after putting all these clues together, something becomes clear. The object itself may not always be the most important part. The relationship may be. Think about how many things your dog experiences throughout the day. Different smells, different sounds, different rooms, different objects, different people. Yet sometimes, when they discover something interesting, they choose to bring it to you. That choice creates an interaction. They approach. You look. They wait. You respond. And suddenly, a completely ordinary object becomes part of a shared moment. That's what makes these behaviors so fascinating. Your dog doesn't communicate with you using human language. They can't explain their thoughts in a sentence. Instead, they use movement, posture, sounds, routines, and repeated behaviors. And you learn to recognize those signals. Over time, the two of you develop your own little language. You know what their excited walk looks like. You recognize the toy they bring when they want to play. You know the expression they make when they want attention. You can sometimes tell when something feels unusual. And your dog learns about you, too. They recognize your voice, your routines, your movements, the sound of your footsteps. They learn what usually happens when you come home. They learn what happens when you pick up the leash. They learn which behaviors get your attention. They become familiar with the rhythm of your life. So, when your dog brings you something, it can be more than an object. It can be an invitation to interact, an invitation to play, an invitation to reconnect, or sometimes simply an invitation to notice them. And perhaps that's why these strange little moments stay in our memories. Years from now, you may not remember every toy your dog ever owned, but you'll probably remember the silly sock they used to carry around, the old ball they refused to abandon, the slipper they somehow kept stealing, the toy they brought to you every single evening. Those moments may seem small, but they are built from countless little interactions that create a relationship. And there's one final question left. If your dog could actually explain why they bring you those random things, what would they say? Maybe the answer isn't as complicated as we think. Maybe, underneath all the instincts, habits, associations, and learned behaviors, there's one simple message. Chapter 20. So, why does your dog bring you random things? After everything we've discovered, we can finally return to the question that started it all. Why does your dog bring you random things? The funny answer is that there isn't always just one reason. Your dog may be asking you to play. They may want your attention. They may enjoy carrying objects. They may be attracted to your scent. They may be bored and looking for something interesting to do. They may have learned that bringing you certain objects creates a reaction. They may even be seeking comfort or trying to involve you in something they find important. But underneath all those possibilities is something much bigger. Your dog has learned that you matter. Think about that. Out of everything happening in their world, your dog repeatedly chooses to interact with you. They bring you a ball, a toy, a sock, a sleeper, something completely ridiculous. And then they look at you, waiting. Maybe they want you to throw it. Maybe they want you to chase them. Maybe they want you to help. Maybe they simply want you to notice. You may never know the exact thought inside their head, but you can pay attention to the message their behavior is sending. Watch their body language. Look at the situation. Notice what happens before and after they bring the object. Because your dog's behavior is often a conversation without words. And here's the beautiful part. The object doesn't have to be valuable. Your dog doesn't care whether That old sock costs $1 or that expensive toy came from a fancy pet store. What matters is the experience surrounding it. Your attention, your voice, your interaction, your presence. That's why a simple moment can become meaningful. A dog drops a toy at your feet. You smile. You pick it up. You throw it. They run. They call me back. You laugh. And for those few seconds, nothing else matters. No complicated words. No explanations. Just two beings sharing a moment. So the next time your dog proudly walks towards you carrying something completely random, don't immediately ask, "Why are you doing that?" Pausi. Lokaci them. Maybe's my. And remember that you're seeing one small piece of a much bigger relationship. Because sometimes the greatest messages aren't spoken. They're carried. And sometimes your dog's strangest little gift isn't really about the sock, the toy, or the slipper at all. It's about the connection between you and them. So let them bring their silly treasures. Keep the unsafe things out of reach. Guide them toward appropriate toys. And enjoy those little moments whenever you can. Because one day, you may look back and realize those random things weren't random memories. They were pieces of your life together. And perhaps, in their own wonderfully strange way, your dog was simply saying, "I found this. I thought of you. Let's share a moment." And honestly, what could be more beautiful than that?